Welcome to the Summerly Science Complex here at the University of Guelph. Manufacturing has long been a key driver, of course, of the Ontario economy. And while many places in southern Ontario have felt the pinch in that category, Guelph has cut a path with an advanced manufacturing and high-tech R&D. It is also notably a city of little players. There are more than 4,000 small and medium-sized enterprises here. So to help us understand how that all contributes to a nation-leading unemployment rate of just 4%, we are joined tonight by Jim Estill. He is the CEO of Danby, the appliance manufacturer. Renata Sergeyev, president of Onyx Hose and Tube. Gavin Armstrong, the founder and CEO of Lucky Iron Fish. Keithio Mwanzia is the president and CEO of the Guelph Chamber of Commerce. And Andy Best is the Open Government Program Manager with the City of Guelph. And speaking of which, how about a City of Guelph welcome for all of our guests here tonight? Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for joining us here. We just, to set the table for our discussion to come, want to share a few graphics with you and our viewers on what Guelph seems to be doing so well. For example, let's start, Sheldon, if you'd bring these up, with the unemployment rate, as we compare Canada at 7.2% with Ontario, which is next in line, a little further south. Toronto, again, a little lower down, but look at Guelph. Below the national average, below the provincial average, below the capital city average. There it is at 4%. 2/3 of the jobs in Guelph are in the private sector, and 1/3 are in the public sector. Online job postings, we see here that the majority of jobs are in trades, transportation and equipment, and sales and service. And if we look at a graph that indicates what size the businesses are here in the city of Guelph, overwhelmingly 1, 2, 3, 4-person businesses are what make up the lion's share of the businesses here. And we happen to have a guy who represents the biggest line on that bar graph. Let's take a look, Gavin, at what you've got beside you here. Lucky Iron Fish. What is that?
Great. So the Lucky Iron Fish is a simple health innovation that we've developed to combat iron deficiency around the world. Quite simply, it's just a specially formulated iron ingot that when you put into your cooking pot will release up to 90% of your daily required iron intake.
Where do you use this?
So you use this at home whenever you're making anything liquid-based. So
and what countries is it really popular in?
So we started off in Cambodia, and we're now expanding into Southeast Asia, but the fish is actually available in over 66 countries around the world.
How'd you come up with this idea?
So the concept is from cooking with cast iron, and so that's been done for centuries to add iron to your food, but it was never done in a sustainable and scalable way. So that's how we came up with this innovation.
Who's we?
So the team. So there was Christopher Charles at the beginning and myself, and now we have 6 people and bringing on a 7th.
6 employees, soon to be 7.
Yep.
You making money?
Well, last year we exceeded $2 million in revenue, and we're taking that money to reinvest into our growth. So we are doing pretty well, I would say.
$2 million in Lucky Iron Fishes.
In revenue, yeah.
Very nice. Where'd the inspiration for the idea come from?
Well, iron deficiency is the world's most largest micronutrient issue. It negatively impacts 3.5 billion people, and current solutions aren't working. So we needed to find something that was simple to address this complex global problem.
And where did you get the idea that if you dropped something that looked like that in a pot of water that you make food in, that would work? Because I'm not sure that that idea would come to people.
Right, well, when we started, actually, we just used an iron disc. And though that was found to be scientifically effective, nobody wanted to cook with it because it looked like we were asking someone to put a piece of trash into their cooking pot.
Exactly.
But after some research, we discovered that in Cambodia, the symbol of a fish is a symbol of luck and prosperity. So we shaped the disc like a fish, and then suddenly everybody wanted to cook with it. And what was cool is when they started feeling healthier, they thought it was the luck of the fish that was helping them and their family.
Well, interesting. So I was going to say, do you have actual hard data that suggests that if you do this, you will get healthier?
Yep, so I'm actually doing my PhD here at the University of Guelph, finishing very soon, hopefully. And my PhD is centered around the Lucky Iron Fish. So we've done 3 clinical trials with 4 new ones underway, both in lab and in the field in Cambodia.
What's the connection with the indigenous population in Ontario and this product? product?
So First Nations, Inuit, and Métis communities in Canada have very high rates of iron deficiency, mainly due to access to food for well-balanced diets. And so we are now partnering with a restaurant here in Guelph, Majida, to bring free Lucky Iron fish to those communities. So if you purchase a menu item on their menu that's cooked with the fish, $1 will go towards purchasing fish for these communities in Canada.
There's an old expression, you can do well by doing good. Mm-hmm. You're doing well and doing good, aren't you?
We feel that way, yeah.
Good for you. Jim, what's Danby?
Well, Danby's an appliance manufacturer. We make small appliances, refrigerators, freezers, microwaves.
How long have you been around?
Since 1947. Of course, I haven't been there since 1947.
He hastens to add.
Well, it's just the makeup.
Our makeup artist is darn good, isn't she? You're looking great. How did the company start?
The company originally started in Montreal, and then it moved to Guelph a few decades later, and it's been in Guelph ever since.
Since
yes.
The 1940s?
Since I think about 60. I should look up the history more. Again, I wasn't there then either. So.
No, I get you. How long have you been with them?
I've only been CEO for about 8 months. I was on their board prior to that for a few years.
And how many employees have you got?
In Guelph, we only have maybe 125 or thereabouts.
Well, that's pretty big. You wouldn't call that a small business, would you? 125 people?
I would.
You would, eh?
We're not yet big. We will be.
Tell us, there's obviously something good going on here in this city to have the unemployment rate be so low, and you're here manufacturing and still going pretty strong, would you say?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Very strong.
Yes.
Okay, so what's in the water here that makes this all work?
Well, that is a really good question. I mean, clearly we have a lot of water. I mean, they bottle it and send it everywhere else.
Absolutely.
So it must be good.
It is in the water. Absolutely.
So I think it's the right mix of blue-collar work with white-collar work, with educated work. There's a mix of government and private sector. There's a good manufacturing base in Guelph, and there's a good public sector base in Guelph.
Still a good manufacturing base, because of course most of the last decade we've heard nothing but bad news stories about manufacturing in Ontario. Not the case here?
Well, not at all in Guelph. I mean, in Guelph there would be at least 10,000 manufacturing jobs, at least. The biggest employer, Linamar, has I think about 10,000 people in Guelph, and they're a manufacturer.
Mm-hmm. Indeed they are. Okay, Renata, tell us about your history with business. What brings you to us today?
I really couldn't tell you how I ended up here. Probably just because I have a big mouth and I like to talk.
Well, we like that in a guest, so it's a perfect marriage.
There you go. Started at 18 years old at AccuFlex Industrial Hose. I'm giving a plug for the competition, because the man who started that business, Dan Van Pook, who passed a couple of years ago actually, was mine and my business partner's mentor since we were young, taught us everything we knew about hose and tubing. In times of layoff, the man would move me to another job rather than send me away, so he saw something in me I don't think I saw. As time went on, I guess I worked there till I was about 28, 10 years, I'd say. 18, okay. Fresh out of high school.
How long have you been with the outfit you're with now?
Onyx Hose and Tube is a second generation business for us, because our first business we built was Arrow Hose. Ran for 20 years in Guelph. We employed up to, at our peak, 63 people. And we sold to Eaton Corporation, a huge corporation who...
The American corporation?
Yes, yeah. Because our group felt that we didn't have the wherewithal to bring it to the next level at that time.
And how did the Americans do with it?
About November 2013, they ran the best advertising campaign for my little company, Onyx, that I could ever have had run. Mm-hmm. They closed the Canadian operation, and we were just opening. So we opened in December 2012, and we were just getting rolling in June, and then November they closed the other plant that we were part of, and we saw the writing on the wall, and we felt very sad that everything we had built was just being taken away.
Why did they close it down?
They moved the operation to Cleveland, Ohio. They had come in thinking that they were going to have a Canadian presence, and then they decided that they didn't want a Canadian presence anymore, or that our presence
Because they could do
wasn't.
it all in the States?
They had a sister company that did similar things, but they didn't do the exact things, and the thing they missed was that the big thing about Arrow, and it still continues at Onyx today, is that our people are everything. Our people are the best at what they do, and they know plastics, they know our hose, they know our products, and they know us, and we work like a team. We're an amazing group. It's a family.
They're not being local to this city, you think may have had a contributing hand in the fact that the business was shut down?
I think they didn't understand the Canadian worker. Our Canadian workers are extremely loyal to our companies, all of us. I know when I worked for Dan Van Pook, whatever he wanted from me, I would do. If it meant work all weekend because that's what needed doing, that's what would happen. And currently we have a young man who has been with us from as soon as we could hire him, because he's a wonderful young man, who's doing a weekend shift. So every weekend he works 2 12-hour shifts for us because we have so much business that our lead times are silly right now.
Can you tell us what your revenues are?
We had $6 million in sales last year from, this is the end of year 3. The first year, $600,000.
That is growth. That is serious growth. And how many employees you got now?
1,031% growth in 2 years.
1,031% growth.
Yes.
Okay, how many people you got with you now?
We started out with 5 of us, the actual owners, running the machines in December. Well, I think the machine came in April or something of 2013. We now have 4 extruders, and we employed a total of 40 people.
And you're, of course, a little fist bump
Yes,
there.
Onyx Hose.
You're the sort of second generation of this business in this city, right? Is that a good way to put it?
There's a lot of hosers in Guelph. There's a lot of hosers in Guelph, and we're for real hosers. We're not like Doug and Bob McKenzie. We're the real thing. We make hose. I'm telling you, this is in Fergus and Guelph and Brantford.
So close to your customers, is that what you mean?
No.
What do you mean?
The manufacturing pool. People who know plastics are in this neck of the woods. People who know plastics are in this neck of the woods.
So the supply chain?
People.
People in
I
general.
can get material from anywhere. I get material from Houston. I get material from, actually, I think some of it comes in from offshore to California where I pick it up. But honestly, I can't get the people. The people who know my requirements and know the art that is extrusion with plastics. It's not a skill, it's an art.
It's an art.
And these boys know their stuff. And these boys are from this area because this is where hose started from the beginning of time with Dan Van Pook in, I think it was like, I don't even know, 70s, early
well, we're
70s.
delighted to have you, the hoser
hoser.
capital of the world, right here on our set tonight. Gavin, if you guys get bigger than you are, you're pretty big right now, but if you get even bigger, will you stay in Guelph?
Yeah, absolutely. And so what's really great about the Lucky Iron Fish is we've completely grown incredibly quickly over the past year. And even though we're in 66 countries around the world, we're very respectful of our heritage of being a Guelph company. The research came out of the University of Guelph. Our first funding came from Innovation Guelph. So really the culture and values of the Guelph community are embedded in how we do business.
And you can get people here to work for the business?
I've got an incredible team. They're all Guelph natives, and so I'm happy to keep growing out of the Guelph base.
And you're from Guelph originally?
I'm from Burlington, but I came to Guelph for university and have never left.
So how many years ago was that you came here?
That's going to age me, but 10 years.
You know, you're the last guy in this room who can make that statement, okay?
He's so
That's
old.
just
I
a
can't
little-
believe you let him on the panel.
Honest to goodness, that's a little too precious.
Sorry.
But you think the future is here. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think the city of Guelph does an amazing job at being collaborative with its institutions. So the University, Innovation Guelph, the Guelph Chamber. Working in partnership opposed to working in silos is what's really fostering a lot of this growth and innovation.
Jim, do you have any difficulty filling jobs at your place?
We occasionally have some difficulty filling jobs because of almost full employment, but I wouldn't say it's much different in Guelph than it is in my other factories in the United States. So I've got locations in Findlay and Foxborough and Alabama.
And if you have difficulty getting employees, is it because you can't find the skills that you need for the jobs that you have available?
You know, it's not really specific skills. And maybe when I say difficulty finding people, it just takes a little bit longer to find them. That's all, because there's just so many jobs for people that they pick and choose.
Is there anything you need right now that you're not getting?
Job-wise?
Yeah.
I mean, we have one, a web developer, database guy. We're hiring for that, so put that plug in. It just apply to Danby.
If anybody's watching, they know who to call.
That's right.
I see. Renata, how about you? In terms of jobs going unfilled, do you have that problem?
We have struggled in finding, and we're looking for unskilled labor. We're fully committed to train someone to be an extruder operator and learn how to
Maybe
run.
you could take 20 seconds and just tell us what an extruder does.
Well, my analogy is always a large meat grinder, because that's exactly what it is. It's a large meat grinder. It has a screen pack the same as it would if you were making sausage. It has heat zones in it, so it's cooking the sausage while you're going. That's extrusion. But the trick is, there's so many materials we deal with. We deal with probably close to 100 different kinds of material that different ways of, they heat up at different temperatures. They act differently coming out of the extruder.
What does it pay?
Start rate at $16.50 an hour. When you're fully trained and can do any job in the plant, you're probably riding the 20 to 25 mark, depending on your skill level.
Well, that sounds pretty good.
It is good.
Why would you have trouble filling that job? Particularly if you're prepared to train the employee.
I personally think there's not enough people really looking for work in Guelph. We are pulling all around too. Cambridge, Kitchener. We're lucky that we're in the hub, but I think we've sold a lot of our housing to people coming in from Toronto and the like, and they're not working here. We need more people in Guelph that are willing to do the unskilled jobs. Then we'll train you. We spend an inordinate amount of time and effort training people up, and when we are committed to you, if you have, seriously with our company, if you have the right attitude, we're more interested in you being a team player and having the right attitude and working the weekend shift if needed, than having a skill set. We'll teach you how to run hose.
Do you think, Jim, that there are some people who are not prepared to do the kind of work that's required to fill the jobs you've got available?
That is sometimes the case, yes. But the advantage of having close to full employment is there's almost always a job for everybody who's willing to work harder or less hard.
Harder. And do you train people up for your place as well?
For most positions, yes, absolutely.
Yeah?
We do train. Yes.
And what do you guys pay?
Absolutely. I mean, straight warehouse work, we'd start at $15 an hour, but in our particular office in Guelph, much more than half of that would be, the salespeople and the product managers and the accounting. It's a head office function, so those jobs, of course, pay
more.
$50,000 a year. They're fairly good, well-paid jobs.
That's some of the private sector's stories here in Guelph. We want to come over here and talk to these guys now. Andy, what do you do?
I'm the Open Government Manager at the City of Guelph.
Andy, there are people who are watching this on television who are laughing their you-know-what's off right now when they hear the words open and government used in the same sentence. But we are not cynical here at TVO, so I'm going to give you a chance to follow up on that and tell us what that means.
Sure, so I'll answer the question in the context of local government, because it is actually different when you go provincially, federally. It means something different everywhere. So local governments in Ontario are deeply infused into the daily lives of their residents. Things like parks, parking, police, plows, pools, and those are just the ones that start with Pete. So the nature of that interaction is really important, and the nature of the experience that people have as they interact with us. People's expectations are changing. along with technology and just with their views of government and the roles that it play in their life. People's expectations around access, technology, information sharing, and opportunities to participate, not just in a rubber stamp kind of consultation way, but meaningful opportunities to participate in the decision making and governance on the issues that affect their lives.
Let's go through that a bit.
Sure.
What kind of information today, in a quote-unquote open government situation, do you think they want to know that maybe 20 years ago they didn't care about or couldn't get access to?
Well, cities own a very large amount of knowledge and insight that is not private, it's just not public, because technology wasn't there to enable it, or the systems internally weren't there to enable it. So this is commonly referred to as open data, and this, which essentially means unlocking the vast pool of knowledge and insight about a community that we have by virtue of being one of the linchpins here as an institution.
Give us an example of how your open data, open city, more open information access has improved the life of, just take one business in the city of Guelph. Give us a story.
So, well, I didn't finish answering your first question, so I'm going to give you one more sentence on that, which is that open government is not an end point, it's the process by which we're modernizing our institution and our services to rise to meet those expectations for citizens. Now, for business, to answer that question, it's not just doing the traditional things that a city does, such as making sure that the governance framework is there to support businesses. That's something that the Kithio will probably touch on as well, so I won't go into that too much. We're also, with respect to development planning, how do you unlock land? How do people come to the city and go through that process to build a new factory, for example? We have taken a hard look at that process to make sure that we are improving the experience. Those are all the traditional things. But with respect to open government, it's about finding new and innovative ways to support businesses. So let me give you one specific example.
Please.
And this is with respect to how we buy things, procurement. Typically, the problems that we're trying to solve historically have been simple. We need to buy 30 trucks, or we need this piece of software.
We meaning the city.
Yes, and the way that governments buy things is predicated on the notion that you can describe in intimate detail what that thing you need is before you go out and buy it. But the nature of our challenges as cities and governments are changing and becoming a lot more complicated. And so there is a specific category of issues that it's not really suited to traditional procurement. So what we've done is we've been building internally, and we're going to launch this fall a program called the Civic Accelerator. There is a new type of problem where we don't know what the solution looks like, and we don't want to know. We can't describe it, and trying to describe it before we went out and bought it would lead to a bad outcome. And so this process brings private sector teams inside to tell us what they think would solve that problem. And that's just not typically how we go about purchasing things. It's new, and we hope that it can address challenging city issues while also supporting local economic development and to help create new businesses in our city.
I wasn't being facetious at the beginning when I said, the words open and government don't usually belong in the same sentence together, because let's face it, much of what government does is intended to be secret, whether it's cabinet meetings or decisions that are made or whatever. So tell us where this sort of impetus to be more open about things rather than keeping things from the population you serve, where does this come from?
I think it's two things. I mentioned citizens' expectations on the one hand, and if we're not meeting their needs, if we're not an institution that they can trust to not only deliver programs and services that are good value for dollar, then we become less relevant to their lives. And that is intimately tied with the challenge that municipalities have at the local level across the country of low voter turnout and low engagement. So it's really open government. It sounds like a place you get to, but it's actually a process, and it's a mindset, and it's a way of solving problems that helps you solve problems with the people you're solving them for.
Do you think the public has bought into this notion that it's actually happening?
No, not totally,
Not
and
yet.
I don't blame that skepticism. And the challenge that we've got is that it's so easy to say we're going to be transparent. How many times have we heard any number of political actors say those exact words? We're going to be the most accountable, whatever, in history. So the next question is, fine, how are you going to do that? And that's why we're focusing on modernizing our actual services, the kinds of things that do touch people's lives, and going about it in a way that bakes transparency and accountability and participation and innovation into them by design, so that openness and the benefits that stem from that are not individual decisions, it's just how we are as an institution.
I'm going to get a second opinion here, okay? Kithyo, here we go. You represent business here today, right? You're Mr.
That's right.
Chamber of Commerce.
Mr. Chamber, well,
So-
that's a title that I often get in the community, yes, Mr. Chamber of
Mr.
Commerce.
Chamber of Commerce. So you got a guy beside you who says the city of Guelph is now more open, more transparent, has a new way, a whole new process of doing business. I guess ultimately, in part, to serve the needs of your members.
Right.
How well is it going?
Well, this component that was being described is it's in its inception form. We've engaged with Andy and the team over there on this specifically, but the city has actually been an innovator in a number of ways. I mean, we talk about why Guelph is such a great place to do business and why businesses are expanding, and that's because of the ecosystem that the city has played a role in as economic developer. So the city's economic development, ourselves, the university, there's this great ecosystem of support in Guelph. There's a partnership and openness and innovative approach to economic development that exists here in Guelph that has existed for some time, and all of the actors are now beginning to, or have recommitted themselves to that. The open government thinking that Andy described, that is a new component vis-a-vis things related to procurement, but if we look at the relationships and the trust that have been built between the business community, between institutions like the university, and looking at the business support ecosystem, that is actually one of the most innovative. I know that you've talked about why Guelph, or what is Guelph doing right, and it's that in many respects, is that our ecosystem is so strong, and the approach that we take to business is an all-hands-on-deck approach.
Just put the word ecosystem into English for me. An ecosystem in the way that you're talking about it includes what, for example?
So the ecosystem of business support includes the Chamber of Commerce, the Economic Development Office, Innovation Guelph, the university, the Small Business Enterprise Center. And so when all of these players, so Gavin, for instance, and Lucky Ironfish, he talked about sort of his trajectory in the community and how each of those players have featured as part of helping him and helping the organization, helping his company grow. I mean, and that's a story that many other businesses in Guelph will tell, which is that if they need some specific element of research, either applied or theoretical, that the university is a very big support when it comes to that. If it's things like trade missions and business to business, we as a Chamber of Commerce and the Economic Development Office of the city play a role in that respect. So when you look at all of the players leveraging each of their capacities to the max, Guelph is really one of those communities where you see all of the players that need to act within the ecosystem to provide the right support, doing what it is that they need to do and maximizing that capacity.
You ready for a little bit of a smart aleck question? Just a little bit of a smart aleck question.
Steve, always ready, always ready.
This is not the first time you've been on this program.
It is not.
The last time you were on this program, you were here representing whom?
I was here representing Niagara at that point in time.
Right. So,
Guelph's better.
You caught me.
So let's just, because I'm very confused, Keith. Before you were telling me I should go set up a business in Niagara, now
Yes.
you're telling me I should set up a business in Guelph.
That's right. That's right.
Which is it, Keith? Tell me.
Well, I thought I would wear a different tie, and maybe that would throw you off. And
No,
you
it didn't
wouldn't
work.
remember.
Didn't work.
What is unique about Guelph, and part of my personal move here, is the strength of that ecosystem. That Guelph has focused on innovation in a very unique way, and is churning forward so quickly that it is a community on the move, and a very fast-growing community in that respect. When you look at the business community that I had the opportunity to serve here, and the community at large that I have the opportunity to serve here, you have one of the most diversified supply chains in the world. We service auto, energy, plastics, as you heard, appliances. You have a really, really unique and growing agri-food system, a university college of business that's committed to saving the world through innovative technologies. All of that makes this a fantastic community to be in. So while Niagara, my old home, has a number of fantastic attributes to it, Guelph, my new home, is certainly one of those communities that is moving exceedingly quickly, and the energy that exists within the community is certainly a place to be. When you look at many other communities in Ontario, what Guelph has gotten right is that ecosystem, and I believe that communities like Niagara and our neighbor Kitchener-Waterloo will adapt the Guelph model, which is one of inculcated collaboration and a real commitment to innovating, to process innovation that actually advances the community in a unique way.
Thank you for putting up for my little smart aleck question there. You're a good sport
Steve.
to do
Anytime.
that. We're a little over halfway through, folks, so let me just do a little business with the folks at home. We are here at the University of Guelph tonight, our second program. We were here last night as well. Tonight now, taking a look at why this community has basically full employment. I mean, Statistics Canada says it's 4%, but essentially everything we've heard so far says if you want a good job in Guelph, you can find one. And we are here tonight with people representing the private sector and the city of Guelph as well. So let's say hi once again to Jim Estill, who is the CEO of Danby, the appliance makers, Renata Sergeyev, the president of Onyx Hose and Tube, who says they got more hosers here than anywhere else, and Gavin Armstrong, who's the founder and CEO, you want to hold that thing up again, Gavin, of Lucky Iron Fish, which he developed as a PhD student here at the University of Guelph. Also on the other side of the set, Keithio Mwanzia, president and CEO of the Guelph Chamber of Commerce, and Andy Best, who runs the Open Government Program here at the City of Guelph. And Andy, I'll stick with you for this next question here. Sometimes our program emanates from Toronto most of the time, capital city of Ontario, which is huge, right? It's the, New York, Los Angeles, Toronto now. I think it's the third biggest city out of Canada in the United States. Guelph's 120,000 people. And I wonder if the size of this city matters insofar as it's manageable. You can actually, from idea to completion is a much shorter road than it might be, for example, in Toronto or in a place where the population's 5 times bigger. I don't know, I'm asking. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a great point. Guelph is big enough that our issues are very common to most cities, most large and mid-sized cities around the continent even. But it's small enough that we can pull those levers and we can test and learn, which is an important part of any innovative process. So we are, from our perspective, we're a working lab as a city of how can we adapt this institution, which is vital. Cities are finally starting to get their due these days as the level of government that is essential to the outcomes that directly affect people's lives. So we feel like we are wonderfully placed to be this kind of lab for conversations around public service reform and governance reform and open government, things that are happening all across the country. We're able to move faster, we're able to be more nimble, we're able to fail faster and learn from that, which is an important part. Not something that, this is another open government principle, is that you got to be okay with your vulnerabilities. Not something that government typically does well, being vulnerable and being honest about failure. But if you're going to change, if you're going to create better outcomes, it's essential that it becomes part of the culture. So not only the size of the city, but also the cultural change component. It's far easier to turn the ship if you have 1,200 or 1,500 employees than it is 40,000 employees.
Sure.
And with respect to open government, again, the words are one thing, transparency, accountability, etc., but it's the people inside the city that will make or break you. And so that kind of culture change is vital to achieving these laudable outcomes.
Jim, I want to pick up on the people here, because we've talked about why this is a good place to do business and why you folks are offering jobs and why the unemployment rate seems to be so low. I want to get a better understanding for the people across the province of Ontario who are watching this as to why this place is a good place to live. Why is it?
Well, I like it because it's small enough that it's still a community. It's big enough that it actually has everything you need. So you can do everything, but it's close to Toronto. If you want to go into Toronto or fly, you're very close to the airport. So it's close to everything. It has a good cultural community. The restaurants are outstanding, and prices here are still reasonable, and it's in Canada. So what else could you want?
How's traffic?
Well, I really had a bad drive to work the other day. I hit all the lights. It took me another 2 minutes. It took me 12 minutes to get to work. I just couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it.
Oh.
It was awful. It was awful.
Oh, the horror.
You know the average commute time to Toronto nowadays?
I do not.
The average commute time, they say, in Toronto is 80 minutes, which is worse than anywhere in North America.
I could walk to work
Why don't you?
in 80 minutes.
Oh, in 80 minutes, I see.
In 80 minutes.
Gotcha. Rana, you live in Guelph?
I lived in Guelph for probably 38 years of my many years.
What makes it work?
What makes Guelph work?
Yeah. As a place to live.
It's an amazing. I have to tell you about where I grew up, which is in and around June Avenue School. Okay, this community where I grew up, pretty much everybody in the neighborhood, their parents either worked at Hammond's, which was right on the corner. They
And
walked to
what
work.
was Hammond's?
Hammond's Electric is they've been in business forever and ever. I can't even, as old as I am anyways.
And they make electronic goods?
They make electronic cabinets for transformers and the like, and they've been in business forever. But I mean, half of our neighborhood worked at Hammond's. Another chunk of the neighborhood worked at Imperial Tobacco on the corner. The other chunk worked at what was Omark, which is now Blount. It was developed in a way that you could actually walk to work. I mean, we were at the very north edge of town, but most of my neighbors, their parents walked to work. It was really kind of a neat phenomenon, and we have to thank the last administration for having some concern about having some green space and also fitting business in. I think now we're at a point where we have to fit more business in and more building lands for people, because we're at a point, I have nowhere to build my new company. Like, we have to move sooner or later into a building, and we have hardly any choices as far as industrial land is concerned. And because of that, the prices are through the roof. But I mean, we need to, the planning of the city is so amazing that, there's a little clump of housing and then a clump of industrial, which isn't very far away. So if you really wanted to plan your life, you could have a 2-minute drive to work.
How does the city work for you, Gavin?
So if I could answer that question while also plugging Lucky Iron Fish.
I had a feeling you were going to do that anyway.
So the Lucky Iron Fish is a registered B Corp, or a benefit corporation, which is international certification for a company that's doing good. And that's not just in its final product, but in the whole process. The city of Guelph wants to be a B Corp leader in Canada. And so when you have that value, that the restaurants or the city or the transit or the small businesses or even the larger businesses are all committed to doing business, but also trying to make the world a better place. It just enriches your life when you live here, and that's why I think when you come to Guelph, you fall in love with it and never want to leave.
You're from Burlington originally?
Yes.
How would you compare the two?
Well, I haven't been back to Burlington, so does that answer your question?
Okay, asked and answered. You've stayed.
Yeah.
Got it. Jim, do I have this right? You're sponsoring 50 Syrian families?
That's correct.
Tell us about that. How did that come together?
Well, clearly there's a humanitarian crisis happening. I saw what was happening, was somewhat frustrated that it didn't appear that anybody was doing anything fast enough. So we decided to sponsor 50 families, and a population of 120,000 can easily absorb 50 families. That was my view.
But you personally have not sponsored 50, have you?
Yes.
You personally?
Yes.
So you are responsible for... Just so you know, and the folks at home, just so you know, there's no applause sign here at the University of Guelph. That was a spontaneous demonstration of what people think about what you're doing, so good for you. How do you, I mean, you responsible for 50 families is quite a daunting challenge. How are you making that happen?
Well, I do it just like being a CEO at Danby. You set it up so you don't really do anything. So I set it up with a director of housing, a director of jobs, a director of transportation, a director of finance, director of mentorship. So every family that comes in gets an Arabic-speaking mentor family, an English-speaking mentor family, and the families have checklists. So make sure they get their bank account set up, make sure they ride the bus with them, show them how the bus system works, take them to the Guelph market, take them to the library, get them a library card, do all of that sort of thing. That's the checklist part. And then every 2 weeks do a scorecard on how are they adjusting. Do they need more ESL? Do they need more job training? What do they need? So we've had 750 volunteers sign up.
Not just from your company.
No, not just from no. See, that's the
all over the
advantage,
city.
and that's also the advantage of being a small community. You tap the various churches, synagogues, mosque, as well as businesses. When you need things, you just reach out, and so that's how it's all organized. It's all done by the directors who have teams doing their small part.
So you did this as a private sponsorship?
Yes, that's
So
correct.
how much money did it cost you?
Well, you're backstopping $1.5 million roughly.
You are doing this?
Yes, I've been lucky in life.
So 50 families is how many people?
Will probably be 300 to 350 people because they tend to be reasonably large families.
Everybody got a job who needs a job or wants a job?
Well, they're not all here yet, but
Oh, I see. They're still in the process of coming.
But clearly, you've heard the full employment. Anyone who wants a job will get a job, and experience has shown that immigrants tend to be very hardworking and want to work. If you look at a lot of the job vacancies, there's a lot of blue-collar jobs in Guelph, and so I'm highly confident that they will all get placed, and they'll all thrive and do well.
How many here so far?
I think we have about 6 families.
6 families so
roughly.
far?
Yes.
Okay. And I guess 2 or 3 months they've been here? That long?
I think the longest only been here for like 6 weeks, and then the last one just came in like last week. So it's all happening really fast now. So we'll see.
How's it going?
I would say it's going great. Great. And it's drawn the community together. So I've been very pleased with the community support, and I think it's helped the community gel.
That is amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well done. Keithie, I want to ask you, you're, as we suggested, you're from where you worked before in the Niagara Peninsula, and you're here now.
Yes.
I'm not sure what the black population of Guelph is, but I can't imagine it's too high. So,
I haven't seen the statistics. But
right. But I imagine it's pretty small, so I'm obviously curious as to how you feel when you're wandering on the streets. You don't see too many people who look like you.
Well, Guelph is a diverse community in thought, right? It may not necessarily be diverse with people in terms of its physical appearance, but it's diverse in thought. It's one of the most welcoming communities out there. In fact, the university actually ranks extremely well when it comes to international student satisfaction. As a former international student myself. So Guelph is a very welcoming community, a fantastic place to live. We did a piece in the Chamber of Commerce recently on the livability of the community, and the element of diversity doesn't really come up as an issue because it is such a welcoming community and such diversity of thought. You hear about Jim and welcoming in 400 people from Syria, and the reason why we think that Guelph is such a great place to do exactly that is because of how welcoming it is. And the fact that this is a community that's going to embrace them in a very real way. 750 volunteers saying that they're going to step up to support someone coming in from a war-torn country. They're going to embrace those individuals. That is a clear demonstration of how open and how diverse a community like Guelph is.
Okay, I'm going to push back on you a little bit here because it's wonderful that it's open in thought and diverse in thought, but you walk the streets of the city and, probably hardly ever see anybody who looks like you.
Right.
Does that bother you?
Yes, but I mean, that doesn't bother me, certainly not. I don't think that really has any real implications, either personally or as a community that is growing as quickly as we are. Because it is growing as quickly as we are, we see it is becoming more and more diverse. You look at the age difference in Guelph. You have young leadership, you have old leadership, you have women at the apex of companies, as you can see. So when you look at the community as a whole, I mean, we're growing, we're transforming, and as we do that, diversity will follow along right behind it.
Andy, let me follow up on you, though. I mean, I know this, you're with the city, so maybe you can tackle this one here. Somebody after last night's program, somebody who was sitting in the audience saying, yeah, they've had a lot of success in Guelph, but just remind everybody there are food banks in the city.
Yes.
There is a housing problem in the city, so don't give everybody the impression that everything is completely hunky-dory here and there are no problems. So I'm doing that right now. That is fair to say, right? There are problems yet to be solved in this city.
Sure.
How well are
every
you doing
community
at
has
solving
their-
them?
Yeah, every community has their challenges alongside their successes.
How well are you doing at solving these problems? The problem of people not having enough to eat, the problem of people not having adequate places to live?
Well, I think one of the themes that we've heard here tonight is the key to that, and that's the level of cooperation that's happening between the institutions that can have an impact on these kinds of things. We have a vibrant religious community here in Guelph, vibrant business community, and I think Jim is the embodiment of how a variety of those things can come together to create a great outcome on those kinds of issues.
Is there a mosque in Guelph?
Yes.
I guess there's going to be more going forward, won't there?
Yeah.
If we have hundreds of more Muslims moving in? Or do we know the Syrians that are coming in? Do we know if they're Muslims or Christians or what?
There will be a combination
A
of
mix?
Muslim and Christian, yes.
Okay.
I guess just to the point related to the challenges that exist in Guelph. What we're seeing with Jim's work and the Syrian refugees is a community. I mean, we have a number of superlatives in Guelph, right? Jobs powerhouse, lowest unemployment in the country, 5th fastest growing jurisdiction in Canada. One of the other superlatives that we have in Guelph is our volunteer quotient. We're one of the most giving communities in Guelph. Just yesterday, we were fundraising for the General Hospital at Black Tie Bingo. And you look at all of how the community rallies around challenges. So whether it is housing and homelessness, whether it is Syrian refugees that are coming in, when you look at neighborhood groups that take on challenges themselves and neighbors are really assisting to help out neighbors, the Giving Tuesday that happened in Guelph where we raised $1 million in a single day, I mean, all of those things speak to the tapestry of where there is great success and there are great challenges, individuals rally together as community to tackle those great challenges. And I mean, that's really unique to this community in particular.
Andy, did you live overseas once upon a time?
Yeah,
Where'd you
briefly.
live?
I lived in Latvia.
In Latvia?
Yeah.
How many years?
Oh, not long, less than one.
And how long ago was that?
That was in 2010.
And you've been back here ever since?
Yeah,
What brought you back?
Guelph.
Really?
Yeah. I'll backtrack a little bit. I first came here in 2003 for the university. We should never underestimate the ability of this university to draw people who then become, passionate members of the community. This is a wonderful magnet for us. We're very lucky to have it. And I did my undergrad, I worked, and then I think I needed to leave for a little bit, to see more of the world. I did grad school, I did a variety of jobs in Ottawa. But my wife and I, my now wife, Erin, we got married and we could have went anywhere. I don't have to be here right now. I mean, I'd like to be here on this. This is good. But we thought about Toronto, we thought about Vancouver, and
good.
ultimately it was a blend of the personal and professional that brought us back here to Guelph. We knew that we've got two wonderful, energetic little girls now. We knew that this was a place where we would be happy for them to grow up in, and that they could have the kind of experiences as children in the kind of environment that we wanted them to grow up in, that they could have that here in Guelph. At the same time, we knew that we would have a professional opportunity. My wife is a sustainable business mentor at Innovation Guelph. We both got interesting jobs that we're passionate about. And so finding a community where you're able to have that kind of work and then have dinner with your family at the end of the day, and you know that your kids had a wonderful time in the park with their friends or whatever it might be, what a unique opportunity to build a great life. And that's ultimately why we came back here over any other place.
We don't want to give people the impression that in a city of 2.5 million people, as Toronto is, there aren't nice neighborhoods where people can go play in the park, and
Sure.
or 500,000 people like Ottawa or Hamilton or so on. But presumably Presumably the size of this city you found less intimidating than, say, the size of the capital or the capital of the country or Hamilton. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. And Jim touched on affordability earlier. You know, just in terms of even owning a home. If we were living in Toronto, we'd probably still be socking it away. And that's nothing to do with parks. That's just the market. So you're able to have a quality of life here for, you know, a reasonable amount of money, and couple that with the wonderful environment for kids and great professional opportunity, and that's why we're here.
Okay, lest this sound like a big commercial for Guelph, let's, in our remaining few minutes here, if you could change, Gavin, one thing about this city, what would it be?
So one of the challenges that the Lucky Ironfish first faced was trying to justify our capital needs for growth. And what was great is that the University and Innovation Guelph came forward with a one-time commercialization grant. I think more investment into the research that's coming out of the university to have better commercialization opportunities. I think a lot of graduate students don't even know rules around patenting, and that once you release your dissertation, you can't patent in Europe. So I think if we put more resources into the research coming out of the institution to put commercialization into the spotlight, that would drive a lot of business growth in the community.
Renata, one change you'd make?
It's very similar. When we started our business, our biggest challenge was, how do we get help? How do we get help to, you know, how do we get money? How do people help us to grow this thing? And unfortunately, ours is not all that innovative. It's pretty much common day product. So for a common day product, there's not a lot of research grants or anything for that sort of thing. It's hard to get money. Not anymore, let me tell you.
Jim, how about you? One thing you'd change?
Well, I'm an impatient business guy, so I am big on velocity and speed, and I think that Guelph could be faster and possibly slightly more entrepreneurial at just getting the stuff done that needs to get done.
Faster at doing what in particular?
Well, simple example, we could use some more parking downtown, very easy to solve. It just takes a little bit of time. Like, it should just be able to be done fast. And so, like, next Fridays, why not have it done by then? That's just my view.
Because the answer is, government may be open, but it's never fast, right?
Yeah.
That is true.
Yes,
That is
and that's no knock against the government. I mean, I do love the city, really. I do.
One thing you'd change? Yeah.
Me? Or one thing I would change is a number of our businesses in Guelph are fast growing and doing fantastic work. One of the things I would change, though, is help more Guelph companies go global. We are part of one of the most diversified supply chains. We have committed as an organization to helping SMEs go global. It's a very
small medium
enterprise. It's such a confusing. The trade space is very confusing, and we want to play the role of translator to that. So when they do commercialize, as Gavin described, coming out of the university, we're able to actually take those products and services global, and that's certainly as a jurisdiction growing as fast as we can certainly have more global companies, and we want to play a role in that.
Okay. Andy, trust me, they won't fire you if you say one negative thing about the city, okay? So just tell us one thing you'd like to change about Guelph.
Well, open government is in and of itself change. It's the culture change, it's process change, it's people changing. So we're trying to become more entrepreneurial. We're trying to create better outcomes for people faster and more affordably. So that's not one thing, that's a big picture push, and that's how I spend my whole day, and I couldn't be happier.
I really want to thank all of you for taking the time out of your schedules to being with us here tonight at the University of Guelph. It's our second night here, so we've got a bunch of thank yous to say. So let me start with the guests. Jim Estill, CEO from Danby, Renata Sergeyev, President Onyx Hose and Tube. I'm always going to remember, Renata, that you're the best hoser we've ever had on the show. Gavin Armstrong, founder and CEO of Lucky Ironfish. Keithio Mwanzia, President CEO, Guelph Chamber of Commerce, and Andy Best, who runs the Open Government Program here for the City of Guelph. We thank the five of you for coming in tonight and really helping us out with this program.
Help TVO create a better world through the power of learning. Visit supporttvo.org and make a tax-deductible donation today.